Disclaimer. I'm sorry, sir, if the video sounds like I'm not willing to do this video because I really not, and my grammar is very, very unstructured. And I'm sorry if the video's topic went anywhere and maybe you don't want to hear some topics, but I need to hit that 25-minute mark. Thank you, sir. Have a good day. Good day, audience. With me, Chelsea, today we will be listening to some of my comments about a podcast that I found is from Spotify. It's about how to improve your reading ability. It is very helpful to beginners, and I really recommend that podcast for anybody who's watching this right now. I was actually really fond of reading back then when I was like at 6th grade, 5th grade. Book is my space of escapism from social interactions, which I really hate till today. But nowadays, I don't really use books as a escapism anymore. I use sadly games nowadays, but I still really enjoy reading. Sometimes, like, there are some books that I was fond of, like Percy Jackson is my personal favorite since 6th grade or something, and I used to exchange what I think about the story to one of my friends, and then like Diary of a Wimpy Kid is really a really entertaining book, which talks about a teenager went through his livelihood. This is the Indonesian version. This is the English version, which are two different kind of books, with different titles. It's very interesting. The language that they use in that book is very basic, very loose, which you as a teenager can understand. It's not like some scientific journal that you like, what does this mean? What does this word mean? It doesn't really ask you to think much about what they are saying, what they are doing. It's about you understand what they feel through that book. Irritation, anger, sadness, everything. It's all in there, and it's very fun to read. And then my personal favorite, of course, is Percy Jackson, as I said before, and I lost the first volume of the book, which is very sad. It's not really sad, but like I already remembered the plot, the storyline. I already remembered that. I remember the main point of that story. I remember that. This is one of my personal favorite confessions. Yeah, I recommend reading. I don't want to bother you too much about that book. So anyways, I was listening to this podcast, which has very interesting points in the way that it encourages you to read according to your own pace. No rushing, no everything. It's just you, about you. And there are some points in the podcast that I really like to point out, and I would talk about my own personal opinion about that certain topic, what I think, what I would do. Okay, so from the beginning, for the first minute of the podcast, he really talked about how it is very important to study English, to read in English, to be able to read in English is very important for you when you start working, right? Because you need to read documents and stuff. But I don't think like how that is pretty much relevant. Let's just pick Indonesia as an example, because we live in Indonesia, right? Because I think what he said is not wrong. I agree, but I think it only applies to big corporates or corporates that uh, works with external internet internationally, like with Canada, Australia, German, something or anything anywhere else outside of Indonesia. But I think reading, you being able to read fluently, fastly and efficiently in other language really brings out plus points for you in your company, because you are able to comprehend what you're reading and you're able to do it fast, which they really really value. I'm so sorry if you hear any background noise. My neighbor is celebrating her birthday. And about being able to read in English is very valuable to you too, so you can stay up to date with today's like science achievements, what happened in other countries, what happened to maybe like on ongoing wars. It's very valuable, and you're just not stuck with that same dull thing that you just read every day, maybe at Twitter or something, like read tweets, read today's gossips or something. Like it's not really, it doesn't give you anything. Well, it gave you some it, like new vocabularies that you can use every day, but not really valuable when you are working, writing documents, etc. After he gives out his thoughts about what reading will give you, he then go off about how to develop those skills. Some of them are scientifically proven, and I can assure you, I've looked it up, and I can say, yeah, I actually unconsciously done these things, and it's very helpful for you if you listen to the podcast later. Then around minute 5 5:32 seconds, he recommended extensive reading. Extensive reading, I think it's, yeah, I don't think it's a very effective way of learning how to read. Okay, read fast, read everything without analyzing. It's not really effective for you to learn vocabulary, grammar structure, etc. It's not very helpful for you. In the end, you need to like reread it again and then reevaluate what it meant, right? Like, I agree with him. Like, it's not very great to do, and he himself expressed that he do not recommend. Like, all right, I read this, but at what cost? It doesn't give him anything, does not give me information, does not give me the knowledge that I want. It does not interest me in a way that it will make me learn about that piece of literature. Like, example, a scientific journal, right? Maybe you really want to test yourself, how far can I read this journal and understand the words inside it, right? You try to read, but the language is so, you maybe understand, but the language is so heavy that you drop it. You just drop that piece of literature without even analyzing it any further. Like the vocabulary, you don't want to know about it anymore. It's a shame, really. I don't really recommend this, and I really agree with the speaker on this one. It's just the previous one is just what he recommends, but he doesn't really condone you doing it. And then next off, he recommends extensive reading. Extensive reading, which is the opposite of what he listed before, is very helpful for you beginners. So in this method, he recommended that you read it slowly, analyze the structure, grammar structure, the vocabulary, etc. And it really helps to improve your reading skills. Slowly but surely, you get the information, right? Okay, then he recommended intensive reading. Intensive reading is very different from extensive reading from before. intensive reading, I really recommend this type of reading because it does not force you to read fast and just enjoy the piece of literature that you are reading. Unlike before, it's more like you are boasting about your reading skill, but not your comprehension of it. So it's really useless. I actually agree with him. Then he goes off recommending how you do what you do with this method, like write some words down, look up some words, understanding grammar structures, etc., etc. Well, I know this method is kind of tedious, but you'll thank this method one day because you understand what you are reading, what you are looking. And then next, he mentioned about something vocabulary study. Vocabulary study is very important for you, and I went through that too. When I was still like at sixth grade or something, I learned that from my teacher. Like she would give me notes and notes and notes, endless notes about vocabulary. There's a day in a week that only for learning vocabularies. And I agree with him that we can't just look at a word and then like look it up, just look up the definition, right? Then you'll forget about it. But just look it up and then just not look for the meaning, but look at the deeper definition, how to use that word in a sentence, you know? Like, so it's just not flat out, oh, Google Translate this word. Okay, I know it now. But you won't remember it the next day. It's better for you to write it down, to store it somewhere, to put it on your notes. If you have a physical copy of a book in English or any language really, and then you are really bored and you just want to do something, I recommend you translating books, because books really give you words that you use every day, and some words are not everyday words that really beneficial for you to learn vocabulary, to expand your vocabulary library. The difference between the day-to-day basis words to something more of a professional words used in documents, worksheets, journals, etc. is the way the words flow. Day-to-day words are more like giving off your own personality rather than you being only acceptable to other people. Just speak up flat words, very formal. People are bored with that. And then formal words are more like for formalities, journals, documents, emails for your work friends. No, not work friends. Your boss, like report emails, something. But I cannot relate to that because me and my boss does not really use emails. We use WhatsApp to just talk to each other. So I cannot really relate to that, except when I need to like send documents. No, not really. Me and my boss just share documents through WhatsApp, so I cannot really relate how you just talk to your boss. Sentence structure, like that. I only do that with like the headmaster or something. But I'm sorry if I sound rude that I talk to my boss like casually. That's what they demanded. I cannot really you know turn it down. And then he recommended something that I've never heard of. Is readers. That's something I'm unfamiliar with. I actually never heard of it. Like until recently, I listened to this podcast. It really piqued my interest because I just looked it up. It just basically gives you like options like, oh, are you a beginner, rookie, or are you advanced? There are some stages that you can go through, and the text varies from one grade to another. And I see grade like rookies are like kids story or whatever, and I read through the advanced levels. They are talking something more scientifically, something more like someone's biography, someone's achievement, what is good for you, all that jazz. It's boring. But if you really want to improve your reading skills, I really recommend using graded readers, as the podcaster really recommend. Like, I can see how it's very helpful for beginner, English speakers, English readers want to learn English. It's very helpful. And I found a website actually that is very helpful. Like, they give you this kind of like worksheet, and then you can try to work that worksheet out. After that, he recommends reading aloud. Reading aloud some texts are very useful for you to train your intonation while reading, your reading skill, how fast you can read, and then you can learn how to read some certain words that you do not understand how to read it, or maybe that's just new to you, and to help you pronounce some words that you don't know. I really recommend this paired with a example Google Translate. It'll help you how to pronounce it correctly, or a digital dictionary you can find on Google. And then maybe you could find a digital audiobook of the book you're reading. It'll help you to listen what they're talking about, what their intonation. You can learn from them, or you can record yourself speak, say a line from that book, and then you can rewind to hear it yourself. It's a very helpful technique to listen to yourself and then correct yourself in a way you say something, like your intonation. Is your intonation clear? Are you comprehensible, etc.? To optimize this effectiveness, you can read from start to finish, or from chapter to chapter, to just compare yourself when you read the first time and when you stop. Then he recommends reading speed exercise. Reading speed exercise is good for you, but it's not very good if you just go in and read as fast as you could. It's not a very good type of exercise when you are just starting. You can start slow, and then you can up your speed little by little, and then you can read as fast as an advanced reader or the natives. Reading speed is not something to boast about to your friends, your colleague, whoever it is. It is to improve, but academically, you can challenge yourself to understand your own capabilities in reading, whether reading speed, reading comprehension, etc. And you can challenge yourself to speed read and then test your own capability of summarizing that text. Maybe you can start from paragraph per paragraph or chapter per chapter. So far, I really recommend his way of improving your reading skill. The things I commented on before was all his recommended way of improving your reading skill. And then he goes on to list some scientifically proven way of reading skill improvement. The first one is schema theory. It is very common way of improving your reading skill. I personally use it a lot when I read Percy Jackson. As in, just think what that sentence meant in a literal way, like Percy slayed the dragon in one swift move. You can picture a guy and a dragon that has been slain with an action swiftly in one move to slay a dragon. It's just you play with your mind and your eyes. Maybe there are some words that you do not understand, and you can look it up using Google. It'll help you reimagine what that word describes the thing. Maybe the blue canopy, the blue gazebo. It is a very fun way of learning English. It usually used in novels while reading novels. Maybe you can do it with scientific journal articles or something, like articles covering some serial murder. There are some times when you don't know that word describes what. It's okay, just look it up and then write it down. It'll help you now and then for you later. As the guy said, and then another scientifically proven way of learning, enhancing your reading skill is by bottom-up processing. Bottom-up processing is a way to learn English very slowly but surely. It is a very fun way to learn English with a novel or something similar. Basically, it's just another name for intensive reading it's just a different name for another technique that he recommended before. It's called intensive reading, and it's a combination of reading aloud too. So you just analyze the the sentences that you come across, and look up its meaning, and then write it down your notes. And then you can try to pronounce it, so you understand how to say it, what its meaning, and when to use it. I often use this kind of method to study. Like example, the books that I've read, Harry Potter, I write it down. I don't really write it down, but I understand the meaning of that word, like the translation of that word. Some actions that you don't understand, some actions that you don't understand how it works, how it played out, you can try looking it up at Google. You won't get many examples of it, but still you get the description, you understand what they're doing. It's very fun. Me personally recommend that way of learning. And the podcaster too, he really recommends learning this way. Then on to the last part is top-down processing. It's the opposite way of bottom-up processing, but how it plays out is similar to schema. You may not know what the sentence meant in that paragraph, but you just don't need to worry about the meaning. You can look it up later. You can just wing it. Just think what you think about what that word meant. You can combine the words that you know, and then you can play it out in your head. Basically, just wing it. Guess the meaning by yourself, and then when you finish reading it, you can look it up later. Well, you have a lot of time, so why not, right? So that's all about his podcast. I mostly agree with him, except the part where he talks about how it is relevant to the work environment, which I do not agree, but mostly I agree. Because thinking about it, nowadays people are more hip, more exposed to the outside world, and want something new, not just something inside the circle. They want outside the circle, they want new inventions, etc. And I understand where I'm wrong in my argument. I use big companies as an excuse to decline this fact. there are small companies that use English, basic English reading skill to just operate. I think that's it for now. Thank you for watching. See you someday.